Thank you to the Transformative Play Initiative at Uppsala University for inviting me to share about career design through serious play. So to start with, here's some context on why career design is very important. We have Industry 4.0, of course, as the answer. Rapid changes in the job world. People who understand how this works are doing better than ever with the opportunities that these rapid changes bring. Others fall behind, and some even have their livelihoods very, very badly affected. COVID-19, as we all know, has accelerated the pace of change even more, and governments, educators alike are realizing that we need to do more to prepare our students, our young adults, for this new normal. And at the same time, it's really, really hard for students to visualize the working world because they just haven't been exposed to it a lot. So we asked ourselves, how might we teach these very important career design principles through role play, or through serious play, as some might say? Welcome to Singaland. That's literally what we say to our participants of this game. In live action role play, there are three main elements. There's the world, the mechanics, and the characters. So in Singaland, it's a place really like Singapore where this game is often played, right? And there's a parallel world when we play it in the US. With Idaho students, we have something like Idaland, and it's customized to the respective cultural and sort of general contexts. So by way of illustration, in Idaho, rodeos are a big thing. We have rodeo clowns appearing in the randomized live events, but not in Singapore, where there just aren't any rodeos. So what's in this world, right? There's school, there's continuing education, so different ways that you can pick up certificates and other ways of learning. There's work, right? Different industries reflecting the respective climates of where people are based. And then, and we have randomized live events, we have banks, we have marketplaces where you can purchase things like cars, houses, mobile phones. You can travel if you like to, and players are free to choose whatever they want to do, constrained only by what we call action points, because that relates to energy. Just like all of us in real life, we have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and there's just limited things we can do. So action points help to sort of set the boundaries and force players to make some choices, right? That reflects some of their thinking and their priorities. Then we go to character. Players create their own characters using a combination of what we call wit, grit, and fit, which is the real life framework that we want to be teaching them. So wit, grit, fit is based on a whole bunch of academic research. So wit is natural smarts by Howard Gardner, multiple intelligence, essentially. Grit, in a nutshell, is a shorthand for performance character, something that Paul Tough in his New York bestseller, How Children Succeed, comes up with these 7 things. So curiosity, zest, social intelligence, things like that. And this helps people to multiply their effectiveness throughout life and throughout their career choices, right? So that's grit. And then finally, you have fit. Fit is the thing that makes us uniquely us. So things like values, interests, your personality, all that is baked into the character sheet, right? So as the players set up their character, they choose elements of this, right? They basically set up who they want to be in this game, and they can choose to be exactly like themselves or very, very similar to that, or they can choose to be somebody totally different, just to experiment and get a feel of what life could be, right? An alternative version of life could be. And in the process, also get to know themselves better. So after creating their character using this combination of wit, grit, and fit, we encourage everybody to speak in character during the game. So in the game, I always call myself ice cream. Guess what my favorite food is? And ice cream can be like me or quite different from me. That's okay. And I get to sort of set up that character sheet. Yeah, nobody's going to tell us what to do in the game. We're given a brief tutorial so we know how to navigate the game and some of the mechanics. But players get to explore and lead their lives. And it's really interesting how different people just gravitate towards different things. Maybe sometimes based on cultural expectations, and other times based on their personal preferences, but it's very, very insightful, right? The game is played in rounds with short debriefs in there so that we can bring people back to real life to briefly consider what that might look in real life, and then we send them back into the game to play it out, right? But those are very brief intervals, and the main debrief is done right at the end because we do want to anchor it back in real life. So after talking about sort of the game mechanics, right? The world, the mechanics, the characters, and how all of that's created. What do they do is entirely up to them. And, you know, if there's one concept I want to discuss a little bit more, is this thing called bleed, right? Very central thing in the live action role play. And it's a key thing that we are using in this context, because we actually do want to maximize bleed, right? We encourage players to feel and to bring those feelings back into the real world, because that helps to guide their choices and just helps to direct them in terms of possible future career choices, right? So because the game world is designed to reflect aspects of real life, there's some degree of confusion and frustration baked in. And this is not dissimilar to how somebody who is 18 years old, 21 years old, just graduated, maybe, how they feel when they have to navigate the real world, which they perhaps have not had a lot of exposure to, or they only had exposure insofar as, you know, the adults in their life have introduced them to it. Right? I remember when I was 18 years old, and we have a 6 months break before we go to university. I remember standing in the central business district and trying to figure out like how this new world operates, right? Out of school uniforms, which we have in Singapore. Everybody was beautifully made up, and, you know, the click clack of high heels, and like, wow, right? And that's what we are trying to do in the game as well. Help just putting people in there and then getting them to navigate that. And how they feel around that can inform some of the choices that they then make in real life, right? So the bleed out happens there. We encourage them to remember their in-game feelings, to use those feelings as a starting point to understand their preferences and priorities in real life. And at the end of the game, we tell participants that they are exiting Singa Land or Ida Land, and whatever they did there, good or bad, it doesn't matter now. But what it holds are the learning points for real life, right? And this is the stuff that will really, really make a difference. And then the participants enter into discussion of what real life looks like using the principles learned in the game around wit, grit, and fit. Right? One of the things that I really, really enjoy, right, is hearing the participants break out of character because they are just so frustrated, right? And one of my favorites is this, when participants complain, right? They like, your game is broken because, you know, I graduated, I did everything I was told to do in school. I'm out now, I still can't find a job. And that's where we tell them, you know, welcome to the real world. Those are great teachable moments, right? And in this particular example, we will bring them to check out their skill sets. And based on the mechanics of the game, it will usually be because that they have some skill that is lacking. So maybe they met all the technical requirements of that job. Maybe their communication skills are not good enough. So there's just one small thing they need to tweak, and then they can find a job in this example. And it's so much better learning this through serious play, through a game like this, than in real life. So I'll just take a pause here and say thank you for all of this, and welcome questions after this.